Hello, you're welcome to this tutorial today. I'm so excited that I'm going to be walking you through step by step on how to configure Azure File Shares with NFS on Linux VMs. This setup is actually crucial for environments where data need to be shared across VMs securely and efficiently. So I'm going to be starting from scratch and I'm going to walk you through the entire process from creating an Azure storage account that is optimized for Azure File Shares to configuring the file shares with NFS protocol. Then we'll go ahead to set up private endpoint for secure access, and then we'll proceed to mounting the file share on our Linux VM. So by the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding on how to leverage Azure File Shares capabilities, how to set up secure access, and also ensure that your file share is easily accessible and can persist across VM reboot. Okay. This is actually what we'll be covering in this video. First of all, I'm going to share the overview of Azure File Shares. Then we'll go on to create an Azure storage account that is optimized for Azure File Shares or Azure File Storage. Thereafter, we go on to the configuring Azure File Shares with NFS protocol. And then we'll go ahead to set up a private endpoint for secure access. Then the next will be to mount the Azure File Share on Linux VMs. And then we'll see how to persist the mount, the NFS file share mount on the VMs. And then we'll test what we've done. Azure File Share is actually a fully managed cloud file system provided by Azure. This helps or enables the storage and sharing of files across multiple platforms and devices, allowing for easy file access via the SMB or NFS protocol. Today we'll be focusing on NFS, right? So this service is actually highly scalable. It offers a secure and high performance access to file shares, that can be mounted to multiple virtual machines, making it ideal for applications that require shared file storage across the cloud. We can use Azure File Shares to lift and shift applications. We can use that for shared storage for our virtual VMs. Previously on my job, I was able to, set up this NFS file share across our VMs. So that way we're able to access our files across different virtual machines. Okay, we can as well use that for, containerization. It can help us to simplify cloud deployment or development, and then it can be used to replace or supplement on-premise file servers. So at this point, let's actually get started with, by creating our storage account. In the previous video, we actually created a storage account, and that one was optimized for blob storage. But for this one, we are optimizing it for our Azure File Share. Okay, before we go ahead, kindly like this video just to encourage me, okay, because this promises to be interesting. And also subscribe, click on notification bell, that way you get notified each time I publish a new video. Okay, thank you, and we can get started. So once you log into your Azure portal, just type storage account, and that is it here. Click on that. So I'll click on create a storage account. So once you click on that, my subscription is already selected, and for the resource group, I'm selecting the resource group I have already. If you don't have any, kindly create a resource group, but we'll be using one resource group across even the VMs that will provision later. Please, let's use one resource group. Okay, the storage account name, let me use tutorial storage. Ensure that your storage account name is unique. Okay, region is West US, and I'm okay with that. For primary services, Azure files, that is our focus. All right, performance actually goes well. The performance parameter we have here goes well with premium. I mean, when we're talking about file shares, Azure File Shares with NFS, because we're actually going for NFS protocol. Okay, I'm gonna explain why we are going with that option. So it's better we use premium because this is for low latency and it works well with NFS, right? For the redundancy, locally redundant storage is okay. I'll click on next. Here, I will just leave this as default. Minimum TLS version we have currently is 1.2 at this point, so it's okay. The permitted scope for copy operation, if you don't have idea of any parameter, just hover your mouse here and you read about it. I'm actually good from any storage account. You can go ahead and select any option here that is okay with your own requirement, okay? And that is it for this page. I'll just leave all these the way they are. Click on next. For network access, um so you have three options here, okay? At this point, I'm not really using this for anything serious, just for the purpose of this tutorial. So I'll be enabling public access from all networks, all right? So please choose any one of these according to your requirement. I'm not adding any private endpoint at this stage, so I'll click on next. Disable soft delete. I don't really need it, okay? But if you need soft delete for file shares, you can actually enable it from here. You can also enable versioning. Well, this one is basically for blob, all right? So I'll click on next, and encryption type is Microsoft managed key. That one is selected already. Enable support for customer managed keys. I will just use um all service types, all right? And I'll click on next. I don't really want to tag, so I'll click on review and create. So now it is validating this. Validation is completed, so I can see everything is actually okay, right? So I'll just click on create, complete. Okay, deployment is completed. I'll click on go to resource. So at this point, the next resource we need to create is Azure File Share. Okay, so once you expand this data storage, you should be able to see File Share. But we cannot proceed with this step if you don't have a VNet. Okay, so before now, I've actually created you know my virtual network. So if you don't have any, just click on create and you should be able to create your virtual network and your subnet. Okay, so I have mine already. So going back to my storage account, I will open that and then I'll click on file shares. So to create our file share, I will just click on file share. By the way, the use case here is actually to, mount our Azure file share into our Linux VM, okay, so that we can be able to access our files across different workstation, across different virtual machines, okay. So we'll be using NFS protocol. So Azure file share with NFS protocol will allow Linux-based virtual machines and applications to seamlessly access file shares in Azure, yeah, providing the same shared storage experience as on-premise NFS servers. Okay, so we will be going with NFS. So in this page to create our file share, I'll be naming this one share one 111. Okay, and for the provision storage, I would like to use my capacity should be 100. Yes, so depending on your requirements, if you want to use 1 terabyte, then go ahead and specify it here. So let's select NFS protocol. Okay, you can read more about NFS file share. We have SMB and NFS. So for the root squash, no root squash. We don't want root squash. Okay. So if I click on next, I'll see enable backup. By the way, NFS file share are not supported by Azure Backup, so I don't want to enable this. I'll just click on review. Validation has been passed, and I'll click on create. So this has actually created, so it has been deployed successfully. Now from this share, from our NFS file share, I can see connect from Linux, configure network security. So for this network configuration, we actually need to configure this storage account so that we can use that from a particular virtual network. Okay, the NFS protocol can only be used from a machine inside of a VNet. Okay, so if I click on view options, you should be able to see private endpoint here, and you're also seeing service endpoint. So I want us to make use of this private endpoint. Why? A private endpoint will give our storage account a private static IP address, within the virtual network. This will prevent connectivity interruptions. Okay, that comes when you have dynamic IP address. But if you don't really care about having a static IP address, then you can enable service endpoint. So I'll just click on set up a private endpoint for our Azure file share, and it is coming up. Okay, it is empty, so we need to create it. So I'll click on private endpoint. So from here, my subscription is selected already. This is my resource group. Oh, so the name here, I'll just name it private endpoint, and that is it. Network interface has been generated. This will be the name. The region is West US. I'll click on next. So for this resource, the target sub resource is file, and that is fine. Click on virtual network. So this is where we'll be selecting um, the virtual network that I asked you to create. Okay, so I'll select, this is my VNet, and the subnet is default, and that is okay by me. For this private IP configuration, you can still select whether I want it to be dynamic or static. I prefer, let me leave it at this. Okay, and I click on DNS. By the way, you can set up network policy for your private endpoint, but this one by default is disabled. So I'll click on DNS. By default, we'll be having a private DNS zone that is from our VNet. So I don't really need to do anything here. I'll just leave it the same way it is. Okay. If you don't want to integrate with private DNS zone, you can click on no. But I'll choose yes. Okay. And I'll click on tags. I don't really care about tags, so review and create. I'll click on okay. It is running final validation, so let's give it a moment. Okay, so I'll click on create. Deployment is in progress, so just give this few minutes to come. Oh great, so it is now completed. I'll click on go to resource, and here we have our private endpoint. Great, so at this point, let me go back to the storage account, and let's access our file share. So this is our file share here, and okay, so we've configured the network. So we have secure transfer setting here. We need to disable secure transfer, okay, because it is actually needed. We need to disable it for NFS to work. So I'll click on change setting, and here this is secure transfer. So I'll just disable it and save it from here. Now is updating the storage account. So once this is completed, we'll go ahead to to get our VM ready. Okay, because our file share is ready. Now we have to go into the VMs and start mounting but I've actually created my two VMs already. So with that VNet I asked you to create, you have to provision or deploy your VMs. It actually depends on the number of VMs you want, but here we are using two. Okay, I created two Ubuntu VM of this operating system here, right? And I deployed the two VMs in the teach VNet. Okay, so the two VMs I have are named teach VM1 and teach VM2, all in the same VNet. So please do same. It is actually very simple to just deploy a VM, no much requirement. So after the deployment of your VM, let's go ahead and then mount the NFS file share into the VMs we have. Okay, so I'll go back to the Azure file share, and let's get the mount instruction. So once you open your file share, this is the mount instruction. All right, so connect from Linux, and so we need to start by following this mount instruction. This first one is actually to update the package manager. The second command here, sudo apt-get install nfs common, is to install nfs common too, which we'll be using for, because we can't mount without installing this tool. Is very important. For the mount part here, this is the mount part we have. Okay, and I will be making use of this. You can actually customize depending on your requirement. Okay, but I'm good with this mount part. I'm actually good with that. So with this mount part, I'll use the same name to create a directory. That is the command we have here, sudo mkdii-p, and then the mount point name. So after the directory, we'll now use this command to mount it in our VM. Okay, so let's go ahead to do this. I'll just copy this first one. So over here, before I paste this command, let me show you the outcome of this df -h command. To view the file system, you can see there is no mount NFS file share that has been mounted here already, and that is what we're trying to do. So I'll paste the first command here to update the package manager and install the NFS common tool for us. Great, that has been done. Let me clear this. The second command, I'll be copying this one to create the directory where we are going to mount the NFS file share. This has been created, the directory has been created. Okay, now I'll be copying this command for the mount. So I'll paste this here, and because we are using a private endpoint, I don't want to go via the public internet. So for our own security, I need to add private link over here. Private link, sorry, dot file. Okay, so that's all I need to do in order to make use of our private endpoint. So I will just press enter, and let's confirm if this NFS file share has been mounted. So easy, right? Great, this is it over here. It has been mounted successfully. But at this point, this has not actually I mean, if I restart this VM, or if anything happen and this VM get restarted, we'll lose this NFS mount point here, so it will just disappear. So we want that persistence, we want this to persist upon system reboot. How do we do that? We have to use a file called fstab in order to configure this. So to do that, all I need to do is to copy this. Right, I need to copy this command I used over here, right? Then open a file called etc fstab. In my last video where we mounted our disk, our Azure managed disk. I explain in details about this FS tab, so you may want to see that, okay, if you want to learn more. So all I need to do here is to paste this here, and at the end part I'll need to type 00, and I want to get rid of this dash o, and because we are using NFS, I'll just type NFS here, and that is the all the configuration I need to do in this FS tab, as long as this NFS file share is consigned. So remember, we're using private endpoint, so that is why I attached this. I added this private link here. Okay, so this is the mount point where we'll be mounting the NFS file share. That will be the location. So yeah, we are actually good with this, and I'll just go ahead to save this file. Okay, so having configured this, in order to test it out, I'll be going ahead to restart this VM, and let's see if that will persist. um Before I go ahead to restart it, you can actually use this command to mount as well. You can use this command to mount. So I'm not pressing enter because this has been mounted already. But once you configure your FS tab, all right, you can use this command to mount it. So this sudo mount a will go straight to the FS tab and use the configuration you have there to mount your NFS file share. Okay, even your disk. But now I'm not mounting it because it's already mounted. So let's restart this VM and see if it persists. I'll restart. Yes. So that has restarted successfully. Now let's SSH back into the VM. Okay. So now I'll be running the df-h to see the file system. And great, you can see this has been this is persisting upon system reboot. Great. Now we can actually switch to this directory. So let's switch to that, and you can see it is empty, so I can just go ahead to create my folders in this location. I can make this to be first folder. Okay, I can create my file. All right, makes sense. So this same step that we've taken to mount this NFS file share in this machine is the exact step I'm gonna use for the other VM. Okay, so I'm not adding, I'm not removing. So I'm just gonna pause this video and do that quickly, and then I'm gonna show you how the file access will work out. I'm going to show you the file distribution and how accessible you can have your files across these VMs. Okay, so I've actually succeeded in mounting this in the second VM, and as you can see we have it. So I will just go ahead to I'll switch to that NFS file location, and let's see if we can access the same file. Okay, and you can see I can access the same file. If I go back to the first VM and create another folder, right, test folder, and create another file, right, and I go back to the second VM. If let me clear this. If I run ls, you can see whatever I update in the first VM will show up here. If I still go ahead to, from the second VM, if I want to maybe like update or create another folder, if I go to the other VM, it will reflect here. You can see. So this is how NFS file share works. So even as remote workers, we can use this to have to make data accessibility so easy, that flexibility, that efficiency of not having to duplicate my files or whatever I've worked on other VMs. Whatever I do here can actually be seen from another workstation, and whatever maybe my colleague do in their own NFS file location in whatever workstation can reflect here. So this is the beauty of NFS file share. Okay, so and you can as well go ahead to you mount this. That is to remove the mount. That is what you mount is. So to you mount this or delete this um mount point from existing in your server, you can use this command. Okay, so that is it. So at any point in time, it is not actually risky to something can happen and you may lose this mount point. All you need to do is to use sudo mount dash a. Because we have that configured in the FS tab, that will just mount successfully for you. Okay, so that is it for this tutorial. If you really enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, like this video, share it with your friends so that be it your friends or within your network so they can benefit as well. Subscribe and turn on notification, that way you get notified each time I publish a new video. Bye.